still don't believe that they're dead. Because it's very hard to believe such young people like that can disappear with such a sudden and violent death. All their wishes, all plans are sunk after one bullet, after one burst, after one move, after one monstrous act.
Tonight on Frontline, love and death in Sarajevo. She was a Muslim. He was a Serb. As a young couple, they tried to build a future, defying the hatred that was tearing their country apart. But a year ago, trying to escape, they were struck by snipers' bullets and died in each other's arms. Tonight on Frontline, Romeo and Juliet in Sarajevo.
Funding for Frontline is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you. This is Frontline.
For 2 years, the world watched while Sarajevo died. The shelling of the besieged city, the slaughter of the innocent civilians, the unending scenes of carnage and grief. Overwhelming, numbing.
This is the CBS Evening News.
But there was one picture and one story that seemed for a moment to break through the fatigue of horror.
Here are some of this week's events.
A boy and a girl, one Serb, the other Muslim, dead in one another's arms on a bridge in no man's land. They were called the Romeo and Juliet of Sarajevo.
They died in each other's arms.
This is their story.
Modern-day Romeo and Juliet, shot and killed by snipers in Sarajevo.
Once upon a time, when they were 16, Boška Brkića and Admire Ismić kissed at a New Year's Eve party. It was the beginning of 1984. That year, a Muslim girl and a Serbian boy fell in love for the first time in their lives. Admira's best friend in high school, Tanya Bogdanović, knew them both well.
The two of them were very, very different. I loved Admira because she was so different from me. She was very unusual. She was interested in things that were a little bit strange for a girl. She loved to ride motorcycles and she knew how to fix cars very well. She was a little bit of a wild character. Usually girls are afraid of something, but nothing could scare Admira. Boško was different. He was quieter and cooler. He had a smile all the time. He liked to play jokes on people, but in a nice way, like a real nice guy. He had a real charm, which you don't see in people very often.
1984 was a magical time to be in Sarajevo. The city was hosting the Winter Olympic Games. And Boško and Admira saw the world come to their home. Historically, Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, had always been a crossroads of nations. A city that had tried to set aside the old hatreds, the embodiment of an international dream. It was a cosmopolitan place, a melting pot where Muslims, Serbs, Croats, Jews, and other nationalities, had lived together for more than 500 years. Boško's parents came here from Serbia in 1970. Dragan was an engineer who worked for the United Nations. Rada was a chemist. They had 2 sons, Boško and Bane.
I raised them without thinking about religion or nationality. I never said you are Serbs, they are Muslims or Croats. I didn't regard her as a Muslim, as different. I saw her only as the girlfriend of my son, who loved her, and who I loved too.
Admira's Muslim parents were just as welcoming to Boško. Zio Ismić, a prosperous garage owner, and his wife Nera approved of their eldest daughter's first serious boyfriend.
Well, I knew from the first day about that relationship, and I didn't have anything against it. I thought it was good because her guy was so likable. And after a time, I started to love him and didn't regard him any differently than Admira.
In my family, there are many mixed marriages. 2 aunts of mine are married to Serbs. They have kids who are my relatives, so that means I can't see a difference. And we lived like that the entire time before the war. All of us, or should I say most of us, only judge people as people, not which nationality they are, but people who think differently made this war. We didn't care about nationalities. That wasn't important to us.
My best friend Otto is a Croat. I spent more time in his Catholic church than in all the mosques of the world. Besides, I've never been in a mosque. But I went to church with him because his parents were religious and they were going to church. I was Otto's friend, and wherever he went, I went. I even sang in the church choir, and I didn't care. And that's something the world can't understand, is how a Muslim would sing in a church choir.
For Admira's younger sister, Amala, that Boško was a Serb and a Christian was not important. He was just the brother she'd never had.
Boško treated me like a younger sister. He always protected me and told me that if I ever had any problems, I could talk to him. If somebody bothers you, he said, tell me. He was like my brother.
But Amala couldn't understand that for her 80-year-old grandmother, accepting a mixed relationship wasn't so easy.
Yes, I did have something against it. I thought he is a Serb and she is a Muslim, and well, it worked. You know, some mixed marriages didn't last for a very long time, you know, some of them. You know how old people like me are thinking.
What she was thinking about was her family's history. How her husband and brothers had fought the Serbs as part of a multi-ethnic force called the Partisans in the Second World War. They were fighting not just the Germans, but also Serbian nationalists known as Chetniks. The war had inflamed all the old nationalism. In neighboring Croatia, pro-Hitler fascists were rounding up Serbs in Nazi-like extermination programs. Boško's grandmother remembers those times. She and her husband and her daughter Rada were living in a Serbian village in Croatia. One day, her husband was summoned to a police station.
And then I never saw him again. I don't know where they took him. I just know he was killed. He said he was thrown in the yard of a pit near Gospić.